Hello there, welcome to my YouTube channel Saint Nightingale. In this tutorial video, I'm going to be showing you how to sew Iro and Buba, beginners friendly, very easy method. So I have my fabric here folded into four. I'm going to open up for you to see how I folded it. You can see how it's folded, right? So after folding this in this way, I'm now going to measure the shoulder measurements. The shoulder measurements I'm working with is 14 inches. So bear in mind that this is already folded into four, so I'm going to divide this into two, which will give me 7 inches. The wideness I'm working with is 4 inches wide. The depth I'm working with is 3.5 inches, right? And that's what I'm marking on that point. I'm going to use my chalk now to connect the markings in a curve style. All right, so after doing this now, I'm going to proceed to marking the shoulder measurement. Remember I mentioned that it's going to be 7 inches because of the way this is already folded. So I've marked the shoulder measurement. From that shoulder, I'm now going to add 6 inches, right, to that point, because the way the buba style is, it's not like the usual round arm measurements. It's has this what we call bat wings, right? So I'm just going to mark 6 inches on that spot. That 6 inches also covers the sewing allowance, which will now reduce that point to 5.5. So I've taken the full measurement, right, 7 plus 6, and I'm marking it on that line to get 13 inches, right? So I'm going to mark 13 inches again on that point. After marking that, I'm going to use my long ruler now to connect the markings that I have. The 13 inches is 7 plus 6, right? And that's how I arrived at 13. So I'm going to use my long ruler now to connect the markings on that line. Afterwards, we're going to get the full length measurement for the buba. The full length measurement for the buba is 24 inches. I'm going to be adding 2 inches sewing allowance to make it 26 inches, and I'm going to mark that across this design, right, or across this pattern, and I'm going to cut through. So up next, we're going to be cutting our sleeves. The full sleeves for this person is 22.5 inches. I'm going to be adding 2 inches allowance to that to give me 24.5 inches, and another half an inch allowance to give me 25 inches. From that 25 inches, I'm going to take away 5 inches and arrive at 20 inches, and that's what I've marked on that line that you can see right now. Afterwards, I'm going to work on the wideness of the sleeves. The wideness of the sleeves that I'm working with is 10 inches wide on fold. I'm going to go and mark 10.5 inches on that point and mark it downwards, and use my ruler to connect the markings. After connecting the markings, I would just open up that side and then cut out the markings that I've made. So very quickly, let me just show you the buba and the sleeves. without joining, just so that you can see what this looks like, right? Let me just give you like a full view of what this looks like before we proceed to cutting the other parts. So you can see our sleeves, you can see our body. Now let's proceed to the wrapper. The measurements that I used for the wrapper is 2 yards and half yard, right? That's 2 yards plus about 18 inches. I'm going to make use of the iron to close the sides of the wrapper, and this is how I'm closing it. So 2 inches first, and then half an inch sewing allowance that I'm tucking in. I'm going to open this up much later as you watch to see what the opening looks like. So I'm using the iron now to press this down, and I'm going to just watch me, yes, flip that way and then press down, so that this is easy for me when I'm sewing on the machine. I'm already using heat to press this down so that it's easy for me when I'm sewing on the machine. That's how I achieve this pattern for the wrapper. Usually the Iro style for closing is this wide for the sides, compared to when closing the scarves, which you make use of you make use of half an inch sewing allowance for the tip of your scarf. But for the wrapper, you're going to be using this wideness to close the tip of the wrapper. So now that that's out of the way, I had already notched the tip, or rather the center point of this. What I'm doing now is to close the tip of the sleeves first before I join it with the other part of the buba. Just follow through the process, you would understand what I'm doing. So I mentioned to you that I took out 2 inches sewing allowance, so I'm going to be flipping 1 inch and another 1 inch to close the tip of the sleeves. Alright, so now that that is out of the way, we're going to be fixing the sleeves on the first side of the buba, bearing in mind the center point, right? So I've pinned this down. I'm going to show you on the other side how I did this. So you see me pinning this down and then sewing through. So what I did was to link the notched part to the notched part on the buba and then sew it downwards, and that's how you get the center point. Bearing in mind the center point for the sleeves and the center point for the buba area. So after sewing this down, I'm going to weave what I have done on the falling shoulder area before I join it on the sides. Also, remember that the buba always has an opening slit on the sides, so I'm going to take out 6 inches, mark out 6 inches on that point that you can see me do, and I'm going to turn it in by half an inch sewing allowance. The reason I'm using 6 inches is because the 2 inches sewing allowance already takes an amount of fabric, and then we'll now be left with 4 inches slit allowance or slit opening on the side. Remember that the tip of the buba has 2 inches sewing allowance already calculated, and so that's why we're going to be working with 4 plus 2 inches to arrive at our opening slit allowance. So I'm done with that part. I'm now going to be closing the tip of the buba. I'm bearing in mind the allowance that I mentioned, 2 inches. So on fold, that will give us 1 inch folded twice. I just used my measuring tape to confirm again that we're on track with the full length of 24 inches for the buba. I decided to zoom this in so you see how I'm tucking this in as I sew. So the next thing we're going to be doing is to close the opening for the neck area. I'm going to be using the fabric to do this closing. I'm going to be using this as a bias to close the neck area. So I'm going to take out 1/2 inch as I'm sewing across. So what you can see right now is the right side. Once I'm done going across this, I'm going to now turn it in and sew. Also, when using this bias system, you can see that I started from the midpoint of the shoulder, right? And that's how I'm sewing this. I also folded the bias by 1/2 inch so that when this is turned over, the finishing is neat. After turning it in, I'm now going to flip over to close like I mentioned. When that's done, that's done already. I'm now going to proceed to sewing the starting from that sleeve point. I'm now going to be sewing all the way down till I get to the point that has the slit. The buba is almost ready. It's about 95% done, just to close up the sides and we're ready to go. So let's just close up the sides now. After closing up the sides, so now going to work on closing up the tip of the wrapper. So see how it is folded in. See what I did with the iron when I showed you what I was doing on the ironing board. So I'm just going to be sewing this downwards now for the left and the right side of the wrapper. I'm done with the wrapper. Let's now close the tip of the scarf now. Remember, the measurement for the scarf is 1/2 inch sewing allowance for the sides of the scarf. The scarf is ready, so let me just show you what this turned out to look like. And here we have it. Voila! Here is our buba and iru, or iran buba, anyhow you call it. I'm going to show you first without the wrapper. I'm going to also show you look at the shoulder part. Look at how the finishing is neat. Let's go to the opening on the sides for you to see the slit. So you can see the opening on the side. So when this is worn, it's easy to go through the head because there's no zip anywhere on the buba. Now I'm going to show you the complete look with the wrapper now, and this is what the complete look looks like. If you have any questions for me, you can leave them down below in the comment section, and I will be taking your questions from you. Do not forget to also click on that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Share with your group of network. I'll be waiting for you in the comments. From me to you, it's bye bye. Keep creating magic. It's Sent Nightingale.